And welcome live to the LV Home Experts Radio Show, where we talk about real estate and financing every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So today we have a very special guest, Bryan Lebo. We are going to be talking about inflation and how inflation actually impacts the Las Vegas housing market. We're going to get a lot of information today, what's going on around the world at a macro and a micro level. So I want to introduce my co-host, Dan French with Guarantee Rate. What's going on, Dan?
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing today?
How's your week?
Week's amazing.
Yes.
A lot of things going on. Got my hands in a lot of different pots.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You closing a lot of loans?
Yeah. I mean, I just got a lot of different things going on. So can't be unhappy about anything.
Well, we got a lot of information to share with you guys today, so I want to jump right into it. Our special guest, Bryan Lebo with Urban Nest. What's going on, buddy?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you so much.
Damn, you look good on camera, though. I think it's the camera angle or the shot or the lighting. It's something.
It's your cinematography. It's definitely.
Is that what it is?
The set lighting. It's cinematography for sure.
It's not that great. I mean, I need to add some more lighting into it, but it is what it is, you know?
It gets it done and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it can't be perfect.
Yeah.
So I want my audience to get to really know who you are as in a person. I think that's very important, especially when we bring on a guest, right? Because there's ways that people can relate with you. Now, the reason why I actually brought you on the show, because this is so important. Okay, you are the only guy on YouTube right now that does a market update, right? Is it every month that you do this?
Yeah, I do it every single month, and I've been doing this since I believe it was 2009.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the last few years, we've reached more of like a critical mass where people have gravitated towards it more. But if you actually go back, I mean, they're embarrassing and the quality is pathetic.
It's always like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're our harshest critics, right? Because quality. So when you go back, you're like, the sound's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have done better. But it's a process.
What I like about the information that you do provide, you articulate it very well, very clearly, and you're very analytical with things. And I'm an analytical guy. Now, I can't sit there and describe everything like how you articulate things. You're like literally on point. That tells me that you're probably reading a monitor. You gotta be.
100%.
There's no way, dude. But you do it very well. And I love the green screen too as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
So I just want to say kudos to that. I think you have about 10,000 followers, right?
Yeah, for boring real estate analytic videos, 10,000 is pretty good for Las Vegas.
No, that's great. Look, it's not about how many subscribers you have, right? It's about the people that are actually very interested in the reports that you put out. Now, you talk about the Las Vegas housing. You break it down as far as, what's going on a monthly basis. You also have your projections as well, and what's currently going on and how that also affects the housing market. I think you also talk about like foreclosures and stuff like that too as well, right?
Yeah, that was obviously a topic that was more interesting and relevant in years past. Obviously, I still track everything. Yeah. But I mean, literally, I just pulled the inventory breakdown. Yeah. And it's just desolate. There's like at any given time like 14 foreclosures on the market. So I really don't talk as much about that as I used to. Yeah. I used to really track and cover the notices of default, but it's so paltry that it doesn't really affect our market. Yeah. So I think what really separates me from anyone else that's trying to do a market update is there are analytics, but a lot of times it's like empty calories. Yeah. So if I tell you we sold 4,000 homes last month, it requires context to understand is that a lot or is that a little? I don't know what to make
and why. What's the pros and cons? Right. And that's what I like about you. The other thing is that this is how I know you're a good agent, right? Because I work with a lot of real estate agents and I interview a lot of real estate agents. A lot of agents, right, they don't really understand the numbers or what's going on with the housing market. A lot of them they just sell you a home. Right. And that's why what I like about you is you break things down and you explain to people, hey, this is the reason why we have 4,000 homes, right? This is what's going on. Here's my predictions. Here's why. Right. If you're a buyer, here's why I would buy. Or here's why I wouldn't buy. Here's why I would sell. Here's why I wouldn't. Now, how long have you been in real estate?
So it's almost been 20 years. I think it's at 18 to be.
Damn, how old are you? Do you look young, dude? This guy's been 20 years.
Yeah,
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, dude, 44 now.
Dang, 20 years.
20 years, man. 20 years. So, one of the greatest quotes that I heard was that you're not paying me for the job that I'm doing for you right now.
Yeah.
You're compensating me for 20 years of experience doing this job.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, benchmark it, man. Go for it. And so, to a certain capacity, a novice agent right now who doesn't understand the analytics and doesn't understand the relationship and where the market's going, some people take pride in their work and some people do the minimal amount possible. I'm a believer that most people do the minimum amount possible to get the job done. And some people are just young. If you would ask me 15 years ago to understand what I'm trying to express to people now, I don't know that I would have had the capability to articulate that.
Yeah.
So if you take pride in your work and you take pride in the process, then you will eventually get better and better. And hopefully at some point you'll be able to articulate what you've learned and help other people. And that's more the phase that I'm in right now. Is I love talking and consulting with a new agent and helping them in their plight. And then 5 years later, they're killing it. And they're like, hey, Bri, you know what? I never forgot this and this and this and this that you said. And that's a great place to be where you can see a little bit of your legacy being laid.
Yeah. Now, what company did you actually start with, and why did you even get into real estate at the age of 24? I mean, you could have done anything else, right? Because don't you have a major in marketing or something like that?
No. I went to UNLV for an embarrassing amount of time and did not actually finish.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is I did what I was supposed to do, and I think part of your maturity as a person, not necessarily a man or a woman, is truly getting to understand who you are and what motivates you and your direction. And I think as you mature, hopefully you become truer and honest with yourself. And for me, going to university every day was a struggle of motivation because I just felt disingenuous.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against it. And I think for the majority of people, it's a great idea. Find yourself, go, can't hurt. But for me, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but there's no class you can take for entrepreneurism.
Yeah.
There's classes you can take to increase your acumen level and understanding of business concepts. But other than the business classes I took, I pretty much loathed everything. And at a certain point in time, I just felt like this was not my path. And so at the time, I was working for Costco. So the truth is,
Dan loves Costco.
Yeah, I mean, it's a love-hate relationship with a lot of people, right? And
that membership's going up, though. So I might have to switch, You heard about that?
It always goes up, man. I don't even pay attention to that. I mean, what hasn't gone up this year?
Inflation, man.
Inflation.
Yeah.
All right, so you was at Costco's.
So I was at Costco, and it was a job. And then at a certain point in time, I'm like, wow, I really need to get something going. So I became a company man, and I was doing marketing. My major was marketing. I was doing marketing for Costco. They sent me to Houston. We ran a campaign and opened warehouses, and I really just said, hey, you know what? Like maybe I can actually carve a career. I started so young. I would have been the youngest warehouse manager literally in their history because I started at 16 years old. And so, I mean, I was in management at, 21 years old. And so, people can knock it, but the truth is, I mean, those warehouse managers, I mean, they're making $250,000 plus stock option. Every warehouse manager you've ever seen is actually a multimillionaire.
Wow. And back then in the early, late 90s, right? That was a lot of money.
Oh, dude. I mean,
that's baller status.
I have a 401k from like a teenager.
Yeah.
And it's literally, I didn't even pay attention to it. I looked at it a couple years ago. I was like, what? I had 6 figures from a 401k when I was like a teenager.
Oh, wow.
Working at Costco, putting like $20 a paycheck in there. So imagine what warehouse managers were making.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, I became a company man. I made the best out of the situation I could. And, I still believe that whatever position you're in, be the best be the best janitor. If your focus is to be the best at whatever your menial task is, do everything the way you do anything. And so I became a company man, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the youngest warehouse manager. And, I had one of my best friends had gotten into real estate, and he's like, Bri, you got to do this. This is perfect for you. And at the time, I'm like, look, I love cars. I don't know anything about houses. Like, why would I even be, I don't even understand what you're saying. And he was trying to tell me, he's like, look, man, You're like one of the smartest guys I know when it comes to business. And I'm telling you this, you would kill it. And I'm like, but I have no interest. I don't understand why you are trying to push me to do this because I don't care about houses, man.
Yeah.
And so he said, look, man, we're selling widgets, but these widgets, every time you sell a widget, man, you make $10,000. He's like, do I have your attention? I'm like, well, you're starting to make a lot of sense here, man. And so I was working at Costco, and then one day, I literally, it's like 3 a.m. I've been there for like 4 hours. I'm tired. I'm starting to hate my life, and I'm staring at the aisle. And literally, my job was consisting of which side of the aisle I was gonna put this pallet of beans. This is like real, like this is
epiphany coming. Right?
Yeah, no, this was that life-changing moment where you either continue to go down this path, put your head down, grind, and be a company man, or just figure something else out. Use what you have and do something different. And I literally was like, I don't think my life is supposed to be stressing over which side of the aisle the beans are going to be placed on for people. And I called up my buddy and I said, hey man, I think now's the time. And he said, look, man, I love you. I'll pay for you to go to real estate school. I want you to get out of here. I just know you're going to make me money and you're going to make a ton of money. So I'll pay for you to go to real estate school. If you don't like it, man, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
So I went to real estate school, and the first class, I looked around and I'm like,
this is my competition.
It literally,
isn't that weird how you go to like these meetings or the GLVR? You look around like, wait, this is my competition?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm like 23 years old. I'm green.
Yeah.
But, I had a good street sense. I understood business.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and I'm like, all right, if there's one person in this room that's going to make money, I can't see losing to this group. I can't lose. I can't allow myself to lose. And I had so much riding on it. I mean, I was still making pretty good money at a 23-year-old. And the second I got in there and I realized that all I have to do is beat these people around me, I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And, the truth of the matter is that you shouldn't say it. I think the statute of limitations is up. But the truth of the matter is I had 2 or 3 deals before my license came in.
Oh, really?
Costco was great, man. I mean, you got to remember, thousands of people come through there every single day for years. I started in 94. I'd been there for almost 10 years.
Wow.
So both sides of town, there was hundreds, thousands of people who knew me as the Costco guy. And I was able to leverage the Costco guy into, hey, not to stop on my boy, but the real estate guy. Sorry, Aaron Taylor. But I leveraged those relationships with business owners and put it out there. And so I actually had a few deals done before my license came in. And so it was pretty much like, hey, thank you, and I'm out.
Okay.
And
where'd you end up going?
So I started with Remax Associates.
Okay.
Which is like, someday when I have the time and the wherewithal, I would love to write a movie script about real estate around the time that I got in the early 2000s, like the original boom, because the things that happened were insane. And Remax Associates is like you guys see the movie Boiler Room, right?
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite motivational movies.
Yeah.
This was like Boiler Room type of situation where I never experienced anything like that. I mean, here I am coming in and like one of the dudes is going to be on The Apprentice with Trump.
Yeah.
And he's like 20 years old. He's younger than me and he's driving a Lambo. And the dude's making $100,000 a month and he's just grinding. And I'm looking around at people that are half as smart as me, but working hard and they're making money. And I realized that, I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your ethnicity is. I don't care if you're ugly or beautiful, man or a woman. This business rewards hard work. Yeah, a few people have a little shortcuts. They're married to someone who has money. But by far and large, it's the most democratic business you're ever going to get in, because if you put the work in, you're going to see results. And I love the fact that coming from a corporate position where you're really truly only going to be as good as the person above you thinks you are. Yeah. And you have to capitulate to whatever they want you to be. And here is your opportunity to be whoever you want to be. So like Boiler Room, when in doubt, act as if. And I love the fact that here I am around a bunch of younger people, older people, everyone's doing their own thing in their own way and everyone's making money. And it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, because the energy was amazing. And while effectively we're all competing for business, we weren't directly competing against each other. Yeah. So Man, it was the golden days of real estate.
So was this around like 2003?
2003, 2004.
And this was when the market was like super hot, right? At this point?
I mean, we think the market's hot right now. And look, it is, but it wasn't like then.
Yeah.
I mean.
So from your experience, would you say it's hotter now, or was it actually hotter back then?
It's different.
It's a different kind of hot?
So it's a different kind of hot. I would say this is a more legitimate hot.
Yeah.
And so, I believe that you look to the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, right?
Yeah.
So you could take from that in a simplistic sense and go, well, look what happened in 2005. And then look what happened. So that means we're going to have a crash and everything's going to go down 50%. And that's a real simplistic way of looking at things. And unfortunately, it's not that simple. Back then, the fundamentals weren't as sound as they are now. And the impetus for people purchasing is different now than it was then.
Yeah.
Because again, back then, you got strippers that own 4 homes, a valet driver who's got 3 houses and 4 under contract. And, one of the most simple ways of looking at these weird times and trends is when everyone is doing something, that's the biggest red flag in the world to get the hell out.
Yeah.
So back then, everyone was in real estate. Just like 5 years ago, have you ever known an international currency trader? I knew one person.
Yeah. And
now everyone trades crypto. So
isn't that crazy?
So if everyone's doing it, it just can't last. And back then, you had Mashid in on the last one, and she kind of alluded to it. She didn't explain it, but she alluded to it.
Yeah.
And the reality was, it was so easy, stupid. You can flip and make money, but there's obviously, you have to buy it right. You have to have the right contractors. Back then, dude, you walk up to a housing track and you say, hey, I'll take one.
Then you can sell it.
Well, but even, you didn't even have to have money.
Yeah.
You go, hey, I'll take one. Your earnest money was $5,000. You go to the design center, you go, I don't need anything. Just put in HUD carpet, brass doorknobs, laminate countertops. Just make this crap. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
9 months later, the house is built. You close on your loan with like 5% down as an investor. You put a for sale by owner sign in the front yard, and you made $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like it's an artificial market.
Then or now?
No, before.
Oh, what? So yeah, 100% artificial, because the biggest. So if you talk to anyone who knew me back in like 2005-06, they were calling it the Manhattanization of Las Vegas, and I was probably the only contrarian that was like, "What? Like, this is not Manhattan. Like, we are not on an island.
Yeah,
and there's not a huge opportunity cost. You can live in Summerlin and be downtown.
But Las Vegas to me was still growing. Like it was the perfect storm back then, because you had all these builders investing, putting a lot of money in here. They overbuilt, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was here, and it just felt like Vegas was just growing, just coming into its own. So I felt being here, that was your opportunity, because let's say you go Midwest or other places, maybe you're not going to have that same opportunity.
Well, but you're right. But going a little bit deeper, you have to question, what are we building? And so the greatest example was that Manhattanization concept. When you're building, let's say, a 400 unit high rise luxury condo, right, where it's $1,000 a square foot, right? There's a difference between selling that to an attorney that's going to live there, an architect who's taking a unit, people that are actually end users. But what people weren't tuned into is that, a few people were buying them as second homes that truly had the wealth, and the majority of people were investors that were like, oh, okay, this is the next thing we can flip.
Correct.
Because it was getting a little tight with residential homes, and they were putting restrictions and deed restrictions. They were kind of onto it and trying to get real people into homes.
Right.
But here, think about it this way. This is the best way I can put it to you. Imagine if, when new home tracts are sold, they would say, okay, here's 8 lots. We're going to build these 8 lots. Maybe a month later, another 8 lots are going to be built. So imagine back then, 8 homes are built and 4 instantly are put right back on the market. Okay, cool. But those people are probably going to live in those 4, and the other 4 were original owner occupants. Cool. But what happens when you have a condo building of 400 units, and the day it's built, 350 come back on the market for resale? Because they overstated and overestimated the actual true, not the demand for people who will close on it, but the demand for people who will live in it and occupy it. And so the problem with a lot of that
it was straw buyers, a lot of them, right? Would you say? Like I saw there was a lot of mortgage companies got hit for straw buying, giving loans on things that didn't exist. It was like the Wild Wild West, man.
So that was later. That was,
you know what I'm talking about.
100%. So
dude, it was just a wild, wild west.
When you talk about straw buyers, there's two types of straw buyers. So on one end, you would have a straw buyer where like, look, I can't buy this new home. So, hey man, your sister,
right?
I'm going to give your sister the money. She's going to buy the house. The day it's done, we're going to flip it. I'll give your sister 25 grand. I'm keeping 75 grand, but I'm putting up all the money and the risk. Mm-hmm. I would say that's more of a legitimate straw buyer. I don't know if you guys remember, because it was right when you were getting in. Where things started going really, really south is, desperate times, desperate measures. At the tail end of everything, when everything crashed, people were starting to get desperate to get out of their houses and.
Well, the bad loans, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was a big part. You're writing bad loans and now they're payment adjusted up.
Yeah.
They can't afford it.
And it was just people, you're biting off more than you could chew.
Right.
And when everything crashed, it's like you couldn't afford what you bought before, and now you have no money.
So I want to fast forward this. So the market crashes, right, at this point. Did you lose any money during this crash as well?
Technically, I didn't lose a penny.
Okay, that's good.
I didn't lose a penny.
But you did become an REO agent at one point, right? Kind of explain that. What is that?
So the actual, let me tell you the little story of how I got the REO thing going. So, I went from having a team of 10 agents and, a couple assistants, like feeling good about myself. I'm young, I'm printing money, people love me, everything's going, I'm on top of the world. I'm living my dream, within a couple of years. And then boom, overnight.
Yeah.
I can't make money. I literally cannot make money. And so I had a meeting one day and I laid it right out for him. I said, look, I'm not even going to lie. I'm having a hard time making money, guys. And if I can't make money, you guys are dead. You're dead. I told my agents, you're dead. So I'm going to go ahead and basically retreat. I'm going to figure this out. So I said, you guys are all free to do whatever you want to do, but I would recommend that you cut your losses and cut all the fat out and live as Spartan as you possibly can. So at the time I had, a Mercedes SL55. I'm cool. I had a BMW 7 Series. Cool.
Get rid of it.
Dude. And Gafford was around. Yeah. Gafford will back you up. I dumped my office. My overhead was like 20 G's a month. And I'm like, dude, if I'm not making, I can't spend this. I cut my office. I sold both cars. I leased a mid-range Lexus because I knew there was no problems. I just got to make this payment. Keep it humble. Keep it simple. I worked from home. My broker was like, what are you doing? This is the time to get everyone scared, get more agents. And I'm like, dude, that makes you money. That's like a weight on my shoulders. So I retreated. I went home. I counted every penny I had. My nephew and I used to kid around. I called them moles. Like, what are you down to, man? How many moles do you have? And moles was an acronym for months of life. Like legit. We're like, no, man, I'm down to fucking 24 moles, man. I got 18 moles. I'm stressing out. So basically I'm like trying to figure out like what is next. Like there's got to be a way to make money. So I reached out to a bunch of old timers that I had done business with in Los Angeles. And so these were old guys. They were still working, but they were just working for the love of the game. They didn't need the money. And so I said, hey man, how did you survive in 1990 and 91? And this one guy goes, oh man, I made the most money ever. I go, no. Like 1990, 1991 during the recession. How did you make money? He goes, yeah, I made the most money ever. I said, okay, well, put me up on the game, bro. Tell me. He said, I did REO. I go, oh, okay. What's REO? I never heard the term. When I got into business, we didn't even know what a short sale was because it was unheard of. And he said, real estate owned. I said, oh, okay. What's real estate owned? I don't know what that is. And he said, oh, come on, kid. It's foreclosures. I represented banks. I said, okay. All right. Well, I got to look into this then. So I researched, I looked into it. And so I started soliciting every asset management company, every bank. And I just put feelers out there because look, I wasn't making any money. Like, I really was not making money, and I wasn't gonna, I probably took a few weeks to just cry and just count my money and figure out how I was gonna do this. But then, I just kind of went like Mamba mentality, like, no, like I can't just be reticent. I've got to there has to be something. So when I did the research, I started soliciting everyone, and in a short time, certain banks and asset management companies came back to me and said, hey, oh, how about you do some BPOs? I'm like, okay, cool. What's a BPO? And BPOs are broker price opinions, basically appraisals for those that don't know. So I started doing these appraisals, and keep in mind, 6 months ago, man, I'm living.
Were you just doing drive-by appraisals,
dude?
Or did you actually physically go in the property,
bro? I mean, I go from killing it to like I was waking up at like 5 a.m.
How much were you making? Like $350 a house,
bro? I made zero.
Oh, you're doing it for free.
Zero.
Oh,
wasn't even later. You got $50. Yeah. $0. My philosophy was, look, I would rather work my ass off towards something that's possibly going to happen than to sit around like everyone else and just cry and just drink myself and talk about how dope it was a year ago. So I literally would wake up at 5 a.m. I'm driving to neighborhoods, bro, that like I've never even been anywhere near because I had no business being there.
Yeah.
So I would drive around for whatever, 2 hours, 3 hours, taking all my stupid pictures. Then I would spend the whole rest of the day and into the night and doing all the paperwork every single day for probably about 9 months. And, I had a couple little deals here and there, enough to, keep it going. Dude, it was, no champagne. We're drinking 40s. We're back to high school. There was no money. Like I just kept it real simple, but everyone else was broke, so it was cool. So anyways, coming in, I think it was January, like 2009, right? All of a sudden, I get a call. Hi, is this Bryan Lebo? Yeah. Yeah, well, we have 16 foreclosures in the Las Vegas area.
I'll take them.
And we just want to know if you would be comfortable taking them.
Hell
like,
yeah.
Yes.
Comfortable. I'm
like,
taking them.
Yeah, I'm like, just what do I got to do, man? Yeah, you need a pinky toe? Like, I got to take 16 more. So, yeah, I got my first assignment, and, dude, it was the wild, wild west all over again because...
So why did they pick you, though? My question is, like, look, there's a lot of agents out there, I think, at that time were trying to do that. Why did they seek you out?
I think he was one of the first to do that, and he was consistent, though.
Was there a reason they told you why they called you?
It was because I was doing the BPOs. So
that's it.
I had more or less, I had a reputation, right?
This guy's working. I had
consistently been doing this for 9 months. There are portals that you had to pay and register to be on. And so I paid for all the portals. I'd done all that stuff. And really, it kind of is like a chain reaction, right? It's like, it's riding that momentum. So I got one, I think it was an actual asset management company that represented a bank. I think it was Aurora Services. So I got Aurora, and then from Aurora, they kind of like recommended me, or I was on that list. So then I got another one, and then I'm like, I gotta. So
how many agents were you would you say were your competitors?
I mean, at
other agents doing that. You know what I mean?
In the beginning, I mean, there's maybe like 15 of us, but by the end, I mean, there's probably 300 at least, because what happened was, I was peaking around 100 listings at a time.
Wow.
Which in the normal world, like what? If I had 100 listings right now, I'd probably be number one agent in town.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who has 100 listings. That's rough, man. That's rough. But I mean, there was guys that had 500. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, the truth is you got to have one hell of a system to truly do a good job with 100, let alone 500. So what happened was there was a lot of dissent, a lot of jealousy. And so what happened is a lot of these banks, especially the big ones, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they cut down everyone. So overnight, anyone who had a B of A account, a Wells Fargo account, you might have had 90 listings yesterday. They went and said, okay, now you're capped at 20. We're bringing on, well, because man, it truly was bad business. Because look, if you've got, say, 40 agents that controls 90% of the market, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the truth was, I mean, even the phone rang 24/7. I would have buyers that would call me, hey, I want to pay cash and I want to buy this house. And I'm like, dude, I don't have time. Call another agent. I literally am treading water, working 14 hours a day. I can't. I had to hire agents just to work the buyer calls because I didn't even care about that money. I just didn't have the ability to handle all of that work. Mm-hmm. And I was still kind of young and a little bit hard-headed in a lot of ways, which I would definitely.
And this is when home pricing was like 80,000. But I have the question for you: how did we get to where we are at today? Because I just pulled the statistics and the numbers, right? On the news, it was a couple of days ago, the median price point was at $450, but I just pulled the numbers today. It's at $461. Now, if we look at the beginning of the year, we started off at $435. That's about a 6% increase. How come we are growing so rapidly, so fast?
So the way I try to explain to people in so many terms is real estate tends to be very emotional.
Yeah.
So when the market is either inflating or deflating, it's very emotional. So if the market's going up, you're scared of getting priced out, and you've been told that you have to put your best foot forward. You have to overpay. And so that emotion, when things are emotional, you tend to not use logic as much.
Yeah.
It's emotional. So when the market's going up, you just pay whatever you have to pay to get whatever you have to get. Now, when the market's going down, it's the opposite. Well, you know what? I was going to buy, but I'm going to wait a year now and see what happens.
Yeah.
And what happens is that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say, I'm going to wait, and you say, I'm going to wait, if no one buys for a year, it goes down. And you go, yep, see, I was right. And then it keeps going down. What people forget is when the crash happened, it took 3 years to bottom out. People forget that. We hit in 2008. We didn't bottom out till 2011.
I know. When the market crashed, I bought my first home, a primary residence. All right, it was a bank-owned property, and I think it was like $195. And I think I bought it at the end of 2009. I thought the market bottomed. Man, that shit dropped down to $135. I was pissed, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but I was wrong. And it went down even further until like 2011. Then we had like a bunch of hedge funds coming in. Then that's when things are just started rolling.
I think the mindset though is you're buying at a discount. Because you're looking at it going, hey, you know what? What did you first do?
But look, on the flip side, when we had over 18,000 properties, people weren't buying. They were scared.
Right.
And I was telling everybody, let's buy. Like, this is where we go back when we had homes at $80,000. Yeah. I literally had to fight buyers and close them, like hard close, to get a home.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. But now, look, we have inflation at 7.9%, right? The question is, how did we get to 7.9% with inflation? How did that occur?
I mean, we can talk some ish.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are an economist, but we.
Oh, what's your thoughts?
And we live in the real world. I mean, I think there's a few parts to it, right? I mean, on the bottom, there was a lot of people making money that they never made through government programs, and unfortunately, it's a mentality thing. Broke is a temporary situation. Yeah. Poor is a mentality.
Yeah.
And when you give poor people access to money, they tend to not save it. They just blow it. So I think right from the inception, we ended up having hyper consumerism during, quarantine and after that never existed on that low end. And then after people were cooped up for so long, it's like, man, when I get free, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. So to a degree, it's like almost like that trickle down economics, right? Where if you free up money, people will spend the money. Well, we gave money away and then people spent you remember like 2 years ago, I would go into like Gucci or something and there was nothing on the shelves. And I would talk to, the manager at Louis Vuitton and they're like, yeah, this is not our normal clientele, but like they're coming in and buying everything. It's insane, like insane. So there was a lot of hyper consumerism going on. And then of course, with housing is the first time maybe since World War II that we had such a trend change. Yeah. Where, in World War II, we had the vets coming back, and with the advent of cars, we were able to build suburbs, and that became the American dream, and that was something new. Well, now, work from home. Well, dude, if you're in a condo, that's a crummy way to exist. Now I want a home. The other thing, too, you got to remember, because of the crash, there's a whole generation that were kids that watched their parents lose everything they had. Yeah. So, that inception of a dream that home ownership is something, not to a generation of kids that just watched their parents lose what was supposed to be a dream. Owning a home didn't mean a damn thing to these millennials. And then home builders didn't build. So we went from overbuilding to underbuilding. Yeah. And then we went damn near a decade where there was a whole generation of people that normally would have bought, say in their 20s, and they just completely did not. And so I think there is a culmination there of a lot of things. And then on another level, one of the things that I'm just vehemently against is, and I'm probably going to get a lot of slack for this, man, but when you think it through, if you raise if you raise the minimum wage, okay.
Yes.
So, let's just be obnoxious. Say you go from $10 to $15 an hour. All right, cool. Like we're helping out people who need a basic, living. Like I understand the concept and I'm all for the concept of it. But the reality is if you're making minimum wage, you are working a menial job. Okay.
You shouldn't be working there. You should be scaling.
Well, I mean, look, you are always going to have a lower class. It's just, it's inherent, right?
Yeah.
But my problem is okay, if this is McDonald's and I go from paying $10 to $15, my labor cost just went up, right? Yeah. Well, do you think any corporation's like,
charge more money?
You know what? We're not in business to make money. We want to help out the underprivileged. No, they're going to raise the price of the product. And when they raise the price of the product, they don't raise the price of the product to get to where they were. They insulate themselves a little bit more. And so the problem is okay, yeah, you go from $10 to $15 an hour. Well, now the Big Mac goes from $2 to $3. The corporation didn't change.
Yeah.
And then you look at it, okay, the guy on the bottom who just made more money, well, now he's the one that's eating at McDonald's. He's the one that are buying these products. So really their money did not go any farther at all. You did not help them out.
No, you're absolutely right.
Look at rents. Well, look.
You're pushing the same amount of units, basically.
It's the same. The ratio is the same, right?
Yeah.
You're making more money, but now your cost of living just went, and it went further than what you just got.
I think one of the big parts of this inflation at 7.9% is if you look at every administration, they're constantly printing money, no matter if it's the right side or the left side. They come into office, they promise all these things, they wait for a crisis to happen, right? Because there's always a crisis, right? And they constantly just print more and more money because now we have over $30 trillion in debt. And, with the M2 supply, they're constantly printing money. So when you have more money into the supply line, at this point, people go out and they spend money. And that's where we have consumer confidence. That's where you have the hyperinflation. But the problem is now that we're at 7.9%, the Feds talked about raising rates, right? I think for this year, 6 times. But did they actually raise rents? I'm sorry, not rents, but rates today?
Yeah, want to take this one? Because I didn't look. I think you said they raised it. Yeah.
Okay, and you said it was of a quarter of a point, right?
Right.
So now the question is this, and we talked about this earlier. By raising rates of a quarter of a point, okay, does that actually affect the housing market? What are your thoughts?
So it's a yes and no, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not an economist, and this is not necessarily my forte. But what people understand is mortgage rates are tied to the bond market. Right?
Yeah.
That's the direct correlation. Now, the Fed interest rates does have an influence, but that's not the direct correlation.
Correct.
When the Fed raises the rates, that's the rate at which banks are borrowing from. And so, yes, from there it's a trickle up effect. But where it will have an effect is in consumer purchasing. So when you go buy, I just went and bought a new car. Well, guess what? My purchase rate, my lease rate, that money factor is going to go up. So, remember during quarantine, it was like, hey, you can buy a new truck for 0 down, 0% interest forever, for 84 months. Cheap money.
84 months.
No, they have leases for like 7 years. Oh my God,
that's crazy.
84 months. That's a normal lease that people can obtain.
Dude, if you're doing a 7-year lease, you should not be getting into a car.
Well, but unfortunately, you're educated, right? Like we look at that and go, what? Yeah. That doesn't make your plan is for failure. Yeah. Basically, your plan is for failure.
Yeah.
But on that note, that's a huge topic.
Yeah.
We live in America and we have a huge sense of entitlement.
And we're in a debt society. Basically, everybody's all in debt.
But think about it this way, man. Like everyone has $1,000 iPhone in their pocket, right? Right. Everyone has $1,000 iPhone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, like, if you're a student, if you're working at McDonald's, you still got a $1,000 iPhone in your pocket. If you're making $24,000 a year and you got a $1,000 iPhone in your pocket, that's a huge percentage of your annual income.
Yeah.
But the problem is especially in America, we don't care about the price of a product. We care about the monthly cost. No, well, yes, but give a person the rope and they'll hang themselves.
Yeah,
so if I say, hey, Chut, right?
Yeah, you can call me Chut.
Chut. So if I say, hey,
Hey,
Chut.
speaking that deep voice, you know what I'm talking about.
Hey, Chut.
No. The shit.
The shit. Hey, what if I say, hey, I have an iPhone for $1,000 and you want to buy it for it, but I'll give you for $50 a month. Do you want that?
I got it.
But if I say, hey, Chut, man, like I got this iPhone, it's $1,000. You're gonna look at me sideways, and
it's 1,000 versus
like, damn, $1,000
versus $25 a month.
$25 a month. And you're like, yo, $25 a month. Oh, I got that. I got that. You're paying forever, but I got $25 a month. And that's the society we live in. That's how part of the reason we got into the first housing bubble is because we sold people on their monthly debt obligation as opposed to the inherent intrinsic value of a property. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that our society is facing is we don't think long enough. We don't think about the end game. We use houses as piggy banks because we want a new pool. We want a new Porsche instead of the actual cost and what it means to you. Mm-hmm. Do you want to pay for this house until you're 78 years old? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had to talk clients out of properties because I'm like, dude, you're 55 years old and you're buying a house that you need a 30-year mortgage. You need a 30-year mortgage. You need to be buying a house on a 15-year mortgage so you have an exit strategy because you will die trying to pay for this house. Your earning years and your earning potential is not there.
So how does 25 basis points affect the consumer today buying a home?
So each from a micro perspective, we're going micro, macro. From a micro perspective, I don't think one rate hike means pretty much jack squat. That is a good, it's a good, tagline, right? It's good clickbait, but I don't think one means anything. It's the culmination of them. Where are we at the end of the year is ultimately the question. So to put into terms, right? Today they raised the rate 0.25%. So let's just say mortgage rates go up 0.25%, next week. Now we just established that the median price home is $450,000. So at $450,000, your mortgage payment is going to go up about $50.
Okay.
But I mean, your mortgage payment, let's just say it's $3,000 a month. I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know if that's 15 or 30 years, but if you're paying $3,000 a month and your payment goes up $50, that's palpable. You can deal with that. So I've never ever in my 20-year career had a buyer go, bro, I was going to buy a house, but man, the Fed raised the rates last week. My payment's going to go up $35 and I'm not going to buy a house.
Well, one thing that's talk on the streets right now that I hear with buyers, a lot of them, right, that are in new homes, they're trying to close quick because they're paranoid, right? I have a client right now with one of my agents is squawking about the rates being hiked up by 25%. He's squawking about that, and I think he got like 4.5. And in today's society, it's, with this crash, with this new generation, their thought process is 3%, 3%, 3%. Yeah. When I first closed my first home, I was at 5.2%. I thought I was the shit, like the rock star. Like, hey, I got, 5.25%. I literally even bought down. But this is where I made the mistake. Market dipped even further. Then I locked in at 3.2. So it is what it is. But I think it's also that mindset. You see what I'm saying? Now, of 1/4 point is not that much. However, the other thing that you have to take a look at is because the median price point today is at 461. If you're just at that borderline with your debt to income ratio, that could literally throw things off, right? It just really depends where you are at in the bracket as far as price point. So it's going to be a case by case basis. That's what I know.
Yeah, and I mean, raising the conventional loan limits as dramatically as they did this last year, that helps a lot of people basically get into homes that they couldn't have gotten into last year, right? I mean, the ratio is the same, but your debt obligation is the same. So again, 1/4 point, your payment went up $50, but then another 1/4 point, you're up $100.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, we're talking what, $300?
Now let's say if it was $300,000 and at that, $300 more. Let's just say you could have bought that $450. Now you lost your purchasing power. Now you can only buy a $200,000 home.
Right.
So that's my point that I'm trying to get across. Talking about this real quick, FHA, what's the maximum limit and also conventional? So that way the viewers know.
647,200 is conforming.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other one is 420. is what the FHA
and you know what? That's still not that much based upon today's median price point for a home. I think we need to make those adjustments already all the way up to $550. Wouldn't you agree? Versus, trickling in every like $20,000. It doesn't make sense. The market is increasing so fast. Like I said, I think it was like 2 weeks ago or maybe a week ago when we did the median price point was at $450. Now it's at $461. I mean, this is unbelievable.
That's in 2 weeks.
Exactly. 2 weeks. Exactly. Yeah. We're increasing 2% every single month. For me, I feel like this is an unhealthy market. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah. A year ago, I was pretty defensive of the concept that, look, we had we overcompensated during the recession.
Yeah.
When you could buy a home for $38,000, I mean, goddamn, the land alone costs more than that. That doesn't make any damn sense.
I know.
So, I mean, what people fail to realize from a national level is like, dude, we were so cheap. It was ridiculous. Like, how could you not buy 10 homes? So,
well, I think too, though, but you got to think that people were scared. Like,
consumer confidence.
It's a big deal because what we know now, who wouldn't buy, right?
Well,
but it's like you just had a crash. Your parents are losing out on money. You're being kicked out of your house.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I going to go back into that and risk that again?
Yeah.
It's a scar,
Well, Chet said it earlier. I mean, he bought a house thinking, like, it can't get worse, and then it got worse. So if I was going to buy a house, he was going to buy a house, he buys the house, and 6 months later, I'm like, damn, Chet, you're down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to buy either. So I think what happened was from 2008 to 2011, it was like everyone was just waiting and waiting. And then what you also have to remember, though, is, everyone short sold or foreclosed their home.
Yeah.
So you had to wait 3 years to get an FHA mortgage. So if you foreclosed on your house in 2008, you can't buy till 2011.
That's a good point.
So
also, a lot of people file for Chapter 7 or 11, and that backed up all the buyers too.
Right.
So maybe that's a good point. That's where all this floodgate is opening up, right? Especially with the lower interest rates, and the Feds dropped the rates because they wanted the economy to move.
Yeah.
And the reason why they printed money is because, again, when people get into office, they promise things and they want to print more money because it puts more money in their pocket. But what happens is you lose a dollar. You lose the value of your dollar. And that's what we are seeing today. And that's the reason why we have this 7.9%. But here's the thing. Why are they increasing rates? The reason why they're increasing rates is because when you have high inflation, the Feds need more money so that way they can drop down the inflation. If not, we can literally run into hyperinflation. Now, do you see hyperinflation or stagflation coming?
I mean, I hope we have some stagflation because this is getting out of hand. And I mean, I've probably said this every single week for the last 2 years. Like, I make a couple bucks, right? I'm like, okay, I'm not, hurting for meals.
I mean, take a look at your shoes, dog.
These are ostentatious.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question.
Banging.
Would you rather have stagflation or deflation? Because I feel deflation is going to maybe help slow the market down. Stagflation, you're still have inflation.
Exactly. Things are not moving, and things are gonna. Well, we already having stagflations on certain things, on the certain sectors of the market. It just
actually
depends.
Not a good economy.
No, it's not a good economy, but that is true. I agree with you. But going back,
yeah, I think I'm blown away because like I do okay. And I look around and I'm like, how the hell is everyone rich? Because I am blown away at how much money everyone is spending.
Yes.
And I just have a very difficult time believing and understanding that everyone has so much money. And the only thing that I can really wrap my head around, and having dealt with clients, I mean, you and I get to see people's portfolios, if you will. And I think what people have underestimated is how well people have done in the stock market, how well people have done in crypto. Like you have a whole class of people that never would have messed with the stock market, but yet they're killing it in crypto. And for the most part, no one really has lost money yet. So I think that there's a lot of easy, false, fake money that has been pumped into this economy that soon will be vaporized. And that's my biggest fear is not that housing will crash under its own weight. I truly, truly, truly believe that between the stock market and crypto, that's our next problem. And when that goes, like think about it this way, right? I've had many clients. I've known countless people.
Yeah.
So think about it. You work your job. You're a smart guy. You work your job. You make $10,000 a month because you're smart and you work hard. Now on your spare time, you start doing a little, day trading. You're doing some crypto. Well, dude, you're making another 10 G's a month crypto. So now you think you're a genius.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, no one's lost money. Everyone's making money. You got to be a special moron to lose money in this.
Right.
So you think you're smart. You think you're special. So you're like, yo, man, if I wasn't working my other job, I could be making $20,000 a month for myself doing this. And again, you got a lot of younger people who have never had a crash, who never have been humbled. So you've got, like, look at social media, look at all these crypto millionaires and what?
Yeah.
It's the same motherfuckers from 1999.com and crypto. It's the same seed.
Yeah.
It's the same exact experience, just 20 years later. And the .com, same thing. What happened in .com, right? You had a bunch of smart 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that were starting up companies or investing, and that was the beginning of day trading, right? And what? Everyone is investing, everyone's making money, and you're like, man, I never even thought about the stock market, but shit, my buddy's making money. I need to make money. So everyone's day trading, everyone's making money, everything's going good. And I go, hey man, what is that company you invested in? What do they do? And you're like, I don't even know, but I made $1,000 last week. And you're like, well, shit, I'll invest in it. So no one knew what they were doing. They just knew they were getting returns. And then one day someone said, what the hell are we doing? None of these companies make money. What are we doing? And everything crashed except for the legitimate ones, right? Like, Yahoo stuck around, Google stuck around, etc. Now, where are we at today? Doesn't it sound like the exact same thing? I mean, literally 5 years ago, no one knew anyone who was an international currency trader, but yet everyone now is trading currency. And like, no one, how many people have you met that are like, man, I just lost $50,000 in crypto and I'm done. I don't know what to do. I can't feed my family.
None of them. We have clients that are buying homes with crypto.
Well, but although I've seen a lot of people pull money out of their, like this ones that started the last year or two, they've pulled their money out.
Right.
They have lost money.
Right.
And it's because they just didn't get started. Look, if you invested 10, 15 years ago, you're sitting great.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's those are the ones that it's when you got in.
I almost feel like it's a pump and dump now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few people now that are very, very deep into it, and I've learned a little bit. I still have never. I'm an idiot because I never invested a penny. So I'm a fool, and I will say that I'm a fool for not making that money. But I'm also not going to be the one caught with the hot potato.
I would have to second that.
Yeah, I won't be caught with the hot potato.
Yeah,
but I really do believe that we are going to have a really bad experience, and I think that the human nature part of it is, look, if you make $10,000 a month and then you're making an extra $10,000 a month on the side, for 6 months, you're like, dude, this is a good side gig. After a year and 2 years, this is just what you do. And it's just human nature that your lifestyle will catch up to your income. So now you got people who are making an extra 10 that think that they make $20,000 a month. So you go buy the Benz, you go buy that house, you go do those things. I think these next 6 months are going to be really telling because, like you said, a lot of people are pulling their money out. What's going to happen to these people that are used to getting these astronomical returns to supplement their lifestyle? Well, what happens if there's a crash? You lose your capital. A lot of people are leveraging. You can make way more money leveraging, but you can lose everything leveraging. So imagine if these people on margins and leveraging lose everything. Now you have no capacity to make the income and you lost your capital. That's my biggest concern, not that the market itself will crash.
So you just don't want to over leverage yourself. You want at least to have some capital to cover, basically.
Well,
diversify.
Yeah, but I mean,
you know what I mean? You can't put all your eggs into crypto. You can't put it all into this. It's got to be, well, if this isn't working, you might lose a little, but you're making it up over here. Do you want to pull that money out? Maybe. Right. But you don't have to. But you know what? You're willing. It's like gambling.
But that's like, and I agree. There's no argument for it. But again, it's like the same thing. I mean, you could go back to the housing boom and be like, well, dude, you probably shouldn't have these many properties of this kind and this. Did people do that? No. You could look back and in hindsight and clearly see all the signs, all the signals, everything. But it happened in .com. It happened in housing. So even though your assessment is correct, I don't necessarily believe that people are executing that strategy. No. And so I'm very, very concerned that is going to be the demise. And that, to me, that is the only thing that really brings down housing. The difference between now and then was the fact that you had people purchasing properties that were never going to be the end user and or were renting properties at a massive loss because they only had a plan A, and that plan A was to rent it for 2 years and then sell it and be rich. And it was a bad idea from the beginning. So, I mean, inflation at 7.9%. If we take a look at every asset class right now, stocks, crypto, real estate,
I would say precious metals, not so much. Where do you actually put your money? Because you got $1 million in the bank, there goes $80,000. Yeah. Like, where do you put your money? I'm looking into the marketplace right now. I just bought another investment property. I'm only getting 6%, but that's better than nothing. But I'm still losing 2% towards inflation.
Yeah.
Like, where do you put your money at this point?
I'm pretty deep in real estate.
Yeah.
I am a big believer in real estate, and ultimately the fundamentals, you can pretty much look at that and determine where you're going to be.
Yeah.
And you put whatever, let's say $100,000 into a stock, it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, who knows. When you put $100,000 into real estate, if you buy a $500,000 home with $100,000 down, your appreciation isn't on your $100,000, it's on your $500,000.
Yeah.
And inherently, the odds are, especially in a long enough run, it's not going to be worth less than what you paid for it. It's just a question of when you need the money.
Yeah.
And I've been very, very fortunate in my acquisitions, and to physically, it's one thing to read a book, run the charts, run the numbers, but when you can see, feel, and touch it, you're like, damn.
It's a lot different.
Yeah, 10 years later, it's amazing. And that's like all the properties, if I have a mortgage on it, it's a 15-year note. And I try to tell everyone, man, like, do not buy. The biggest cancer we have is 30-year mortgages, because think about it this way psychologically, right?
Mm-hmm.
If let's say you have a 30-year mortgage and a 10-year mortgage, everyone by 10 years living in the house, man, like even if it's brand new, you're like, dude, these appliances are starting to suck.
Yeah, everything's outdated.
Yeah, exactly, man. And you start getting that itch, right? So if you're on a 30-year mortgage, man, you look at your wife and you're like, damn, I just looked at the statement and, we bought the house for $500,000 and man, we still owe $402,000. Like, what the hell? You know what? Let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
So you leave and you re-up another 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if you're on a 15-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Now you're looking at it and you're like, okay, we bought this for $500,000, but dude, we only owe like $150 and we're paid off in 5. It's hard to see where you're going to be in 20 years, but you can see where you're going to be at in 5 years.
Yeah.
So psychologically, when you're 10 years deep and you only have 5 more to go, it's a lot easier to say, you know what, let's just kill this. Let's just pay this off. We got 5 years. Let's just get it done. 20 years is a lot more difficult.
Why not just do a 30-year loan with a lower interest rate, but have the mindset just to pay more towards principal?
Well, a lot of times that's what I do.
Yeah.
A few of them I did 15 for various reasons.
Yeah.
Or it just penciled out so well that it just didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that's what I do as a 30-year, just because going through 2008, going through bad times, you just, no matter how confident you are, no matter how on top of the world, no matter how arrogant you think you are, you never know when you're going to get knocked on your ass. And so taking out of 30, if I take a 30-year, the first thing I do is amortize it over 15, and then it's just auto paid and it's done. But if something were to happen, the debt obligation is lower, and it also lowers your debt to income ratio because of that. So
now I want to talk about the Russia-Ukraine situation. You guys know what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I follow the news, but geopolitics, I can't say that that's my forte. But yeah, no, I'm following.
Okay, so obviously we know that Russia, I think since February, they are taking over, right, Ukraine. And, with this NATO situation and the U.S. printing more and more money to help Ukraine, I think they just printed another like $2 billion, which, again, that will also affect our money supply. That's where we're going to have, again, more hyperinflation. So my question to you is that how does something like that affect our housing market, like what's going on with Russia and Ukraine?
I mean, that's like the $2,000 Jeopardy question right there.
Your thoughts.
I mean, I would say that's a little bit over, my pay range. The only thing that I would really speculate is what effect is that going to have on sourcing products, materials? Obviously, the big thing right now is oil. So it's a question of whether or not we open up. We've already opened up the reserves. What are we going to do as far as continuing to create oil and the lack of dependence thereof from coming from Russia?
Yeah.
So obviously oil in general affects damn near every single industry, from trucking to the products you purchase, which ultimately goes into housing creation. But as far as the housing market in Russia, I mean, why don't you tell me what your thoughts are, and then I can kind of jive in.
So, look, if Russia, as they are invading Ukraine, okay, we got to figure out why. The second thing is, if we take a look at NATO, right? NATO has a total of 38 countries, right? That's part of NATO. And what's happening now is that if you take a look at Russia, they supply about 11% of the oil reserves to the European country. Right. So obviously, there's a lot of tension going back and forth, but obviously the U.S. is part of NATO. And what's happening is that NATO is now crossing the borderline of Russia. But Russia doesn't want that, obviously, right? Because they feel like they are threatened. But also, if you take a look at Russia and China, they're pretty much allies. And if you take a look, they hold the most reserve gold, right? So they have like tons and tons of gold. So they've been stacking on gold. So the problem is this. If the U.S. does something with Russia having more than 4,000 nuclear missiles, this could literally cause a war. Yeah. But by causing a war, right, what would actually happen to the United States? We would have to print more money. We would have to send in some troops. Yep. And that could be very devastating to the housing market across the United States. Not even housing. I'm talking about everything. Because if we take a look today, gas price is pretty high, right? So I think gas price a year ago was like $3 or $2.50. I don't really look at that. But now I think it's above $5. So if we take a look, the median price point, the average household of income here is about 56 or 58,000. A family that has 2 vehicles, now they're probably spending about $300 extra every single month. That's 36,000 taken away from the 56,000, right? That's a discretionary income that they could have used. How does that affect the housing market? That extra $36,000 could have been applied towards purchasing a home. So that's the angle I'm coming in at.
Well, I mean, on that note, I mean, look at Tesla. I think their orders went up 40% in the last 2 weeks, right? So, I mean, I've been driving EVs since 17.
Yeah.
But on that same note, where I'm kind of interested in and concerned is China's got to be looking at this. You know, and North Korea's got to be looking at this as what is the world's response going to be, because that allows them, like, what's going to happen with Taiwan. Taiwan is a bigger, to me, that's the next step.
Yeah.
Right? So I hear the music, man. Are we done?
We're done. You see how fast it is?
Oh, I got out of the geopolitical conversation.
Yeah, you did.
Man. I need to carry this music around with me anytime I'm in a conversation and someone asks me something.
Hey, that's your cue.
Like, I got to get out of here, man.
Hey, dude, I really do appreciate you taking your time to come on out here. I definitely want to get together because I want to do some more collaborations with you. Yeah. But you have so much information with the Las Vegas housing market, and there's so much more questions, but we're just running out of time. Cool. So I do apologize for that, but I want to bring you back one day, or maybe we can do some sort of collaboration together on one of your properties, or if you have a listing, we can walk some properties, talk about private real estate investing and just anything real estate, right?
Yeah.
Now, guys, if you guys are interested and want to connect with Bryan Lebo, I'm going to have a link in the description below. Like I said, he gives out great articulating information with the Las Vegas housing market. So go ahead and subscribe to his channel. I think you release it, every
month. I do an update video. And in fact, I just shot last night this month's video. So in the next couple of days, we'll be dropping.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Chakits Kruksawat with Simply Vegas, and be blessed, folks.